Welcome back. The president and CEO of the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation, Joel R. Johnson.
Hello. All right, good afternoon and welcome back from the break. I hope those churros are kicking in. There were some delicious snacks out there that everyone was able to have. Get fortified for the next couple of hours as we close out our first day of Capitol Hill Ocean Week. I'll just remind you all to, of course, if you do take a break, to spend time with our sponsors and go to some of the exhibits. I hope you have seen some really cool films over at the Sanctuary Cinema, or maybe you've put on a VR headset and explored some maritime heritage at the Living Labs. Thank you again to all of our folks who are here with us online virtually, tuning in to Capitol Hill Ocean Week 2026. Okay, so we're going to start the next session and introduce a couple of fantastic folks who are going to lead a great plenary called Made in America, Our Nation's Marine Heritage. Let me start by saying, of course, something that you've heard many times today already. Our marine heritage is our collective story. It's our shared history in this nation. From Revolutionary War shipwrecks to historic working waterfronts, our waters have shaped our nation's identity, economy, security, and a spirit of exploration that can be found coast to coast. National Marine Sanctuaries, where I have the joy of partnering with NOAA on, helps to bring these places to life. Places like Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, which is home to one of the world's best preserved collections of historic shipwrecks, preserve our past while also driving tourism, recreation, and waterfront revitalization. Recently, I was really fortunate to attend the grand reopening of the Gray's Reef Ocean Discovery Center in the city of Savannah. And there I saw how sanctuaries can really connect communities to distant ocean waters through discovery, education, and stewardship. Today, these waters continue to power numerous activities from tourism to recreation, including maritime industries, technologies, and research. All of that contributes to a growing blue ocean economy. And this next panel, Made in America, Our Nation's Maritime Heritage, will explore how marine heritage destinations, coastal communities, and ocean recreation can play a larger role in America's outdoor movement, and tell us a little bit about ourselves and our own national identity as we approach our nation's 250th anniversary. For our welcome and opening remarks, I am very pleased to introduce to you Nicole LeBoeuf. Nicole is the Assistant Administrator for NOAA's National Ocean Service. She leads a staff in over 50 locations across the country. And as the Assistant Administrator for NOAA's National Ocean Service, she oversees strategy and operations for America's premier coastal and ocean agency. The National Ocean Service addresses economic, environmental, and social pressures on our oceans and coasts, and it oversees the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries. She herself oversees strategic and operational priorities in safe and efficient transportation and commerce through our waters, preparedness, and risk reduction. Her stewardship of the coastal and ocean resources through her team's work really sets the National Ocean Service apart. Nicole most recently announced NOAA's new National Coral Reef Resiliency Strategy at the 51st U.S. Coral Reef Task Force meeting in Puerto Rico. Please welcome to the stage to moderate our next panel, to give our next remarks, my friend Nicole LeBoeuf.
Thank you for that introduction, Joel, and welcome everyone to CHOW 2026. My name is Nicole LeBoeuf. I am the Assistant Administrator of NOAA's National Ocean Service, and I am honored to kick off today's conversation about how recreation and tourism is helping to shape the future of America's ocean and coasts, and vice versa. Today's panel brings together leaders from public and private sectors, all focused on maximizing the benefits of America's marine heritage. Our panelists represent unique perspectives on how protecting our ocean and coasts, such as through the National Marine Sanctuaries, supports not just conservation, but also drives local economies, providing value far beyond the water's edge. From where I sit at the National Ocean Service, our National Marine Sanctuaries could not exist without the communities and the businesses that support them. So before I pass it off to the panelists, I want to just give you a few examples of partnerships that underpin the recreational economy in our nation's coastal zone. Businesses and communities located within and around the National Marine Sanctuaries play a vital role in protecting marine resources by promoting sustainable use and responsible recreation and tourism. To be sure, a healthy ocean and coast is good for business. People from all over the world travel to our National Marine Sanctuaries to enjoy activities such as whale watching, exploring shipwrecks, and world-class fishing. An estimated $8 billion is generated annually to local, coastal, and ocean-dependent economies through these and other activities like commercial fishing and scientific research. At NOS, we work with the business community to raise public awareness about ongoing research and conservation efforts, driving more public interest and more visitors, the economic benefits of which have a ripple effect across sectors and communities. A prime example of sanctuaries driving economic growth can be found at Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, supported by our visitor center in Alpena, Michigan. It's not an understatement to say that the sanctuary is a cornerstone of Northeast Michigan's economic revitalization, serving as a major catalyst for regional tourism. Each year, this sanctuary alone attracts over 97,000 visitors and generates approximately $11.4 million in direct economic benefits supporting local businesses and jobs in the hospitality, transportation, and recreation sectors. When a Viking cruise ship makes a stop in Alpena, it brings over 10,000 visitors to the region annually and contributes more than $850,000 in spending. Without the sanctuary and the visitor center, the local and regional communities would miss out on the vital economic activity generated by this important source of tourism. The Thunder Bay Sanctuary also plays a critical role in supporting military-related activities, such as the Silent Swarm exercise. Silent Swarm is a federal research and development exercise that brings together over 500 scientists, engineers, and military personnel to test cutting-edge autonomous technologies in the unique environment of Thunder Bay and the surrounding area. While the primary focus of this exercise is national security, it also drives significant economic activities, advance Great Lakes research and protection, and creates hands-on educational opportunities for students. This synergy between tourism and military activities makes the Thunder Bay Sanctuary a principal resource for economic stability and growth in Northeast Michigan. We also preserve our maritime heritage and culture via direct public outreach, education, and community engagement throughout the sanctuary system. For example, at Gray's Reef National Marine Sanctuary's Ocean Discovery Center in downtown Savannah, Georgia, we provide free entry to people of all ages to learn about ocean ecosystems, maritime heritage, and conservation. The Gray's Reef Sanctuary protects one of the largest near-shore live bottom reefs in the southeastern United States. It's famous for its rocky ledges, rich biodiversity, and its popularity among anglers and scuba divers. But not everyone is able to travel offshore to the sanctuary to witness these incredible features firsthand. Through the Ocean Discovery Center, the reef and its wonders are brought shoreside via virtual reality headsets, man-made reefs, sandboxes, and soundscapes, so that visitors who can't travel to the sanctuary can still access and learn about this remarkable ecosystem. System-wide, our National Marine Sanctuary Visitor Centers serve over 16 million people each year. They are a vital bridge to accessibility and connection, allowing more people to experience and appreciate the wonders of marine sanctuaries while also increasing foot traffic and boosting sales in nearby businesses. NOS is committed to safeguarding our national marine sanctuaries, America's premier marine places, throughout our nation's coasts and Great Lakes. We are hard at work improving visitor experience, strengthening our public-private partnerships, supporting local economies, generating interest in marine conservation, and preserving our maritime heritage and culture for generations to come. We do all of this standing shoulder to shoulder with our partners, including industry, innovators, and community leaders like those here today. Together, it is our shared responsibility to keep our ocean healthy and our maritime heritage strong and our coastal economy prosperous. I look forward to hearing from the panelists as they share their perspectives on shaping the future of our ocean and coasts in service of the U.S. economy and our nation. Thank you.
Okay, so now I would like to introduce the moderator of the panel, Dr. Justin Dunnavant. Justin holds the Joan Silsby Chair of African Cultural Archaeology at UCLA. His first book, Colonialism, Ecology, and Slavery, under contract with Princeton University Press, investigates the relationship between ecology and enslavement in the former Danish West Indies. In addition to his archaeological research, Justin is the co-founder of the Society of Black Archaeologists and an AAUS scientific scuba diver. In 2021, he was named a National Geographic Emerging Explorer and inducted into the Explorers Club as one of 50 people changing the world that you need to know about. He currently serves on the board of trustees for the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation and the Aquatic Futures Foundation. Please welcome Dr. Justin Dunnavant.
Everybody. I guess it's around 3 p.m., so we're still in the afternoon time. We are excited to be here with you all now. I'm excited to have an esteemed guest panelists here to discuss this topic of Made in America, to talk about our nation's marine heritage. I just wanted to do a quick introduction of each of the people who we have here so you all get a sense of what we're talking about, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. If you all in the audience have questions, please use those cards next to you, write down your questions, and then pass them down to the end of the aisle, and we'll have somebody come around, pick those up, and I'll make sure to incorporate those near the end of this session. All right, so to get started, to my left, we have Pete Lesher. He is Chief Historian and Ambassador at Large at the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum. To his left, we've got Faye DiMassimo, who is Chief of Planning and Economic Development for the city of Savannah. It's in Georgia. To her left, we have Dr. Damon Stanwell-Smith, who is Head of Science and Sustainability at Viking. And then finally, but not least, we have Shane Cantrell, who is the owner and operator of Galveston Sea Ventures. So we have a wide group of panelists from many different regions and many different areas. Let's give them a round of applause first. Welcome them out. And I want to take the opportunity to kick this off with, I think, a very important question, one that I give my students at the beginning of my archaeology classes, really trying to understand what is marine heritage for you and the ways in which you engage it. And so I just wanted to pose that question to the panelists here, and then maybe we could go down the list a bit and see the diversity of regions and specialties that you all focus in, and put it up to more.
I'm from a maritime museum, and in fact, with Council of American Maritime Museums, one of over 100 across the North American continent. And when we talk about maritime, we usually talk about the human connection there. It's about people and place. Several of our museums, though, are named marine museums, and that usually means that we're broadening it out to talk about not merely the people connection, but also specifically the resource looking at that in isolation. So we have, particularly our marine museums, will often have an estuarine biology department where we have aquaria and look at the life, the resource that then becomes exploited in the human, the connection in between nature and culture.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. Yeah.
So Savannah is founded, we came from the ocean and came from the river. In 1733, James Oglethorpe came inland, about 18 miles inland, and founded Savannah. And our entire culture and heritage and history, a very rich history, really is based upon that initial founding and our relationship to the water. I know you've already heard about some of the assets that we have, and if you've been to Savannah before, you know that we are a city that prizes our historic preservation. It is the largest national historic landmark district in the country. And you will note also in that when you come to visit, that many of the things that we celebrate and that you will have an opportunity to really explore all deal with our maritime history. Our Coastal Museum Society has an extensive exhibits and so forth that really celebrate and explain how we came to be.
Well, from a Viking perspective, the word Viking in Old Norse actually means to explore by sea. The Vikings didn't call themselves Vikings, they called themselves the Norse. And in my perspective of what marine heritage is we're all storytellers as humans, and that the tales that we tell of the love that we collectively have of the sea, whether it be the environment or the built environment or the human component, to me is what marine heritage is, and the stories that we continue.
To me, it's understanding the places that we're interacting with, how special they are, and how they came to exist in the world that we're exploring. It's just a matter of understanding the cultural heritage that we have with these places, how we have interacted with them in the past. Coming from a sanctuary that's very far offshore, we are just now expanding and understanding our interactions with these super remote places.
Right. No, thank you for that. Thank you. And Pete, I want to ask you a very specific, targeted question. Not only in your role with the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum, but also as president of the Council of American Maritime Museums. And I was wondering if you can speak to this relationship between research and exhibition. How do you go from translating the research on the ground or underwater to an exhibition that's engaging, informative, and really speaks to our marine heritage? And are there challenges and opportunities that you see coming forward into 50th?
Well, we are public historians. There are academic historians that are doing most of the primary research. As public historians, we're digesting that research, and we're looking to make that research publicly accessible. That's not to say that Maritime Museum folks do not do primary research. Absolutely, we must. But we tend to devote less of smaller portions of our time to that primary research. Nevertheless, the authenticity that people seek when they are going to a museum, we're looking for the real thing. Museums are among the most trusted institutions in an era when academia and journalism and government and other traditional sources of fact are increasingly undermined. Museums remain that trusted source of information, and so we owe it to the public to ensure that our exhibitions are deeply informed. That they are true, because we don't want to squander that trust and that opportunity to connect with audiences.
Right, thank you. Do you see challenges and opportunities around this 250th, around certain aspects of maritime heritage that can be told?
Well, America's story is a maritime story, and so absolutely we can and do. And we are exploiting those opportunities with special exhibitions and programming. At Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum, we will be opening next month Emblems of America, exploring, one of the distinct features of vessels on the Chesapeake is even very small vessels were unusually ornamented. Little carved trail boards under the bowsprits and ornaments on the masthead and on the stern and such, even as little as a 45 or 50-foot skipjack or something like that would be ornamented. And what did the watermen choose to ornament their vessels with? All kinds of things, but more than anything else, patriotic symbols. And so this is an opportunity to highlight that on this national anniversary.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
One of those that we will feature comes from a vessel in a national marine sanctuary. We might touch on that later.
Okay, I'm going to make a note to keep that in mind. Faye, I wanted to step outside the museum for a minute and talk about this idea of marine heritage at a sort of city level and city scale. And I'm wondering how it connects, in your case in Savannah, to this wider notion of tourism,
Right.
and also beyond just the physical objects. I mean, I'm thinking food, heritage, just Savannah culture in general in the marine world.
Oh, absolutely critical. So I mentioned earlier, founded in 1733 by James Oglethorpe and that National Historic Landmark District. But when you look at it, everything about Savannah is built upon an 18th and 19th century oceanic trading port. We were also the home port to the SS Savannah, which was the first hybrid steamship to cross the Atlantic in 1819. So again, that whole notion of our relationship to our marine heritage and to the ocean itself is absolutely fundamental. The ships of the Maritime Museum that I think I mentioned earlier is a place where you can see that celebrated along with many other of the museums and so forth that have been pointed out here that are so important in terms of that truth-telling of our past and our present and our future. The blue economy, I wanted to talk a little bit about that. The Georgia Ports Authority, which is also a part of our city and our community, is the third busiest gateway for container trade in the U.S. The sales and revenue top $174 billion annually. That's billion with a B. And 112,000 full-time and part-time jobs that are provided through the Georgia Ports Authority. Coastal tourism, again, one of the other facets of how we embrace this in the city is also important. $4 billion annually is the impact in Savannah of coastal tourism. We have about 13 million visitors a year, over 28,000 jobs, including lodging, food, beverage, recreation, all of the above in that tourism space. And then for fisheries, of course, we know we've got lots of folks that enjoy that part of our relationship to the water. 223 million annually statewide, and that includes saltwater fishing, eco tours, sport fishing, charters, recreational angling, and so forth. So you can see from those kinds of numbers the tremendous amount of impact that our marine heritage has on our city and on our state in terms of how we how we see ourselves now and how we see ourselves into the future. And then I want to be sure and comment, I know you've heard a bit about it already, but the education, research, and technology space of how our marine heritage impacts our city. You've heard about the Ocean Discovery Center. It's an absolutely beautiful facility. It does give you the experience of being able to be immersed in Gray's Reef without having to go there. And that's really important because especially for a lot of our young people, that experience, and some of our visitors, that experience might not be available. We have something that's really fresh and new and beautiful for families, and it's another attraction for families that are coming to Savannah to visit, and an education piece for our young people. And then the MATE ROV Southeastern Regional Competition is hosted in partnership with Gray's Reef. Of course, the underwater robotics design, build, and navigate. I know many of you are already familiar with MATE ROV. Again, this is the place where we bring elementary, middle school, high school kids into that space of thinking toward the future and thinking about how technology and our marine heritage live together.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And then, transitioning, Dr. Stanwell-Smith, I'm interested in understanding, many people go to Savannah for heritage, but you actually take people to heritage sites. And I was wondering if you could speak a bit about Viking, what you all do, and where you see the future of marine tourism expanding.
I'll be delighted. And firstly, may I say, I'm conscious that you'll tell from my accent, I'm half British, half Danish, but I was born on the 4th of July, so I'm delighted to be here, humbled in this conversation discussing American heritage. Regarding Viking, we, for the last 28 years, have taken vastly, it was over 90% of our guests, our American guests, sailing around the world. And when we decided to build expedition vessels, there was an epiphany by our chair to make the vessels just slim enough to get through the Welland Canal. So they're 77 feet wide, and the Welland Canal is 78 feet wide. So we slide a 30,000-ton ship through the Welland with 6 inches either side. And the reason why was looking at somewhere that would be exciting and interesting to explore during the summer months, the winter months, if you like, or the austral summer. The vessels spend their time in the Antarctic for 5 months of the year. And we believed, and I think it's been borne out by we're phenomenally well booked, and that it is a very, very popular place to visit, that for many Americans, maybe the relationship with the Great Lakes is one of maybe ambivalence or not quite sure. I have to say myself, I come from a marine science background, so joining Viking 7 years ago and finding, that Great Lakes was going to be a core location, I had to learn too. And I think we collectively go on a journey of discovery when we come. I mentioned it in my opening comments about marine heritage, about storytelling. Everything we do is we see the narrative arc of voyages. It is very much about storytelling. And we look at ways in which we can storytell in different engaging ways. We do that when we're going into the amazing industrial centers of the past that are incredible cities along the American seaboard, or lakeboard, if you will. We zigzag our way across to Canadian waters and back, so explore sort of both sides of all of the 5 lakes. We look to explore using submarines. Our 2 vessels have 4 submarines. And I'd like at this point, actually, I think in the gloom I can see me being a non-American. Our lead submarine pilot is in fact a DC born and bred, and ex-US Army. So Stephen Quigley, wherever you are, Steve, I've brought our lead submarine pilot too, so I'm very grateful for Steve if you'd like to hear firsthand how our submarines operate in the lakes. But the overarching point is that if you get involved in different ways, you understand it better. And the premise that you love what you know and you protect what you love, taking away, every one of our guests, we hope, take away something about the lakes and about marine heritage, and whether it be the incredible stories of the shipwrecks, whether it be the stories of the industrial movements of the past, whether it be the stories of music and food and other things that make up, marine heritage in the round. If you're engaged with it, you remember it and you take some of it away. I have to say that specifically with Alpena has been a focal point for us in Thunder Bay. Everything there has really come in terms of the community engagement, the science that's done there, and of course the shipwrecks and the understanding of heritage. And we've found a really nice way to develop collectively different ways in which we can engage with our guests. And I have to say, on a local level, when talking to local media there, I've reflected on comparisons with what we do in the Antarctic. Now, in the Antarctic, I hope we know it's the South, there are no indigenous citizens in Antarctic, so we refer to ambassadorship there. We refer to Antarctic ambassadorship, where a place that needs representation. And I've commented on having Alpena ambassadorship as a specific thing in the media, but the idea that people take something away in order to share that and share the love and share the hope for protection too. And that, if you like, is our formula for engagement.
Yeah. I don't know if you can share, but are there any plans to expand, to do new voyages and new locales?
I can say in the public domain that we are building 2 more expedition vessels. So we know that, and indeed Viking has a program of expansion because lots of people like to sail with us. And we will definitely continue to engage in the lakes. It's a fantastic location for us. And just generally, I think our vast majority American guest clientele would like to understand their own country as well as exploring overseas as well.
Yeah, thank you. And then, Mr. Cantrell, first I want to say congratulations on your recent, I guess, 2025 nomination as Volunteer of the Year.
Thank you.
That was a very good achievement. A lot of the work that you've done was being recognized. So I just want to say thank you and congratulations for the work you've done as a volunteer. Yeah. We can clap. It's okay to clap. I'm wondering, with Galveston Sea Ventures and the work you're doing, if you could describe what you're doing there. But I noticed in a lot of your descriptions you talk about loving fishing, but I also know that you love fish as well. And I'm wondering if you could speak about how you thread this needle of a for-profit company taking people out on the water and doing the volunteer conservation work as well.
So it's a wide range.
Yeah.
So I started my fish loving at the beginning of my college career. So I went to school at Texas A&M University at Galveston, studied marine fisheries, and found out that you don't need that type of education to go and become a charter boat captain. Those don't directly connect, but once you do that, you occupy a special place. So I have a training that understands fisheries as a different way than just driving a boat. So being able to bridge those two has been really special to me to share with guests. People that come and engage with the marine environment can take away a lot more understanding and a different perspective than they otherwise would have of just taking a photo of a fish. You can learn more about how that fish interacts with its surrounding as well. But as it comes into the sanctuaries, as we go 100 miles offshore, we're in pursuit of many different things, but one of the really interesting things that I've been able to experience is growing and understanding a research side of this, is taking people out to tag sharks, to find a scalloped hammerhead inside of one of our sanctuaries, and be able to tag that fish and it travel throughout the ocean unharmed, and be able to see where it goes, where it comes back to. We have species that travel all the way up the eastern seaboard and come back to our sanctuaries, which is really fascinating. But I have also been able to work with researchers along the way and been able to share that information with a client whenever they come out and catch a big sandbar shark that may be a nuisance otherwise. I can say, hey, these things travel thousands of miles over years, and we can find them in the same locations. This is what it does on the reef. This is what the reef looks like under. And then taking divers out there, people come from all over the world to see some of the healthiest and most unique coral reefs in our sanctuary. But they have it's an investment to get there. It's often a 3-hour, 4-hour, 5-hour boat ride, depending on what part of the sanctuary you're going to. You don't end up there on accident.
Yeah.
You rarely end up there on accident. But it's just been fascinating to connect the pieces from different parts of my business. I've got a group coming up in July. They're working on scheduling a bird tour to go out and look for pelagic birds out around the sanctuary. That's a totally different perspective than something I enjoy doing in my time, but not something I am familiar with in their domain. But they have some species that they're after to find and locate, so I'd be happy to be a part of that. But it's just about learning everything you can about what is out there and mostly how much we don't know about what is out there. Even being able to dive has its limitations at a certain depth. You're stuck in an ROV is your best way to get down there, and that's another like extensive time investment. That's the most limiting factor for us is time.
Time, yeah, thank you. I didn't even think about that. We might have to do a panel next year on the Audubon Society or birds in the ocean. I want to encourage you all to write down your questions as well and pass them down. Just building on that topic, I'm interested in this idea of technology and where it's leading us today in the world of heritage. And this is open for anybody on the panel. And how you all are seeing technology maybe offering new opportunities for us to not only understand but also interpret our heritage writ large.
So for me, it's the quickest way to change from one language to another. From a research, what a research community is trying to tell me about something is in a very different language than the family that just got here from Houston to go out into the ocean. Being able to interact and interchange those languages to say, oh yeah, we're looking at how this thing moves through its ecosystem. Like, no, how does it interact with the corals? The things that people most identify with are corals and mantas and these big predators, and how they interact with everything else, and use that as a gateway to all the different species they may see through the day. But that technology is often the bridge of that, through visual media, through being able to bring that sanctuary to the shore like they're doing in Savannah. It's something I want to bring to our sanctuaries.
Yeah, nice. I see it.
I was going to say, I think that's also a place where, you know, our youth today are so much more technology savvy, and that's where a lot of their interest is. That's what how they're used to learning and experiencing the world. And the notion that we are bringing that into the marine space and bringing that into our into that part of the world means that they will experience it and understand it and incorporate that into how they think about the future, and how they engage with the world. And so it's bringing it closer and bringing a stronger understanding that I think is super important.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, anybody else?
But technology has immense applications in museums, whether we're talking about laser documentation of objects, including archaeological sites, right. Or simply providing public access to all of our collections. Howard Hagee said this morning at the Mariners Museum, 97% of those collections are in storage. True for us too. How can we provide that online access? It's through digital scanning of these, but this is entering into our exhibitions as well. With, in our case, a closed-loop AI of Frederick Douglass, using only his writings and being able to respond to your question with only with no more pause than you would get with ChatGPT.
Wow. It's a whole new world.
Well, I see a paradox. I concur with the other panelists that technology enables us to engage in things in different ways. And certainly from Viking's perspective, we are always looking at interesting ways, whether it be visualizing spatial data. We're using VR. We have a research program looking at VR to understand the context of heritage, whether it be artifacts or maybe looking at different scenarios in the future and the past that you can help with this stimulating imagination. But the paradox is I see there's no substitute for engaging with the provenance, the analog provenance of actual things, seeing things firsthand. I think there's many places that we might travel to that no amount of fantastic movies or whatever is the same as the visceral experience of touching something or seeing it or feeling the wind or whatever it might be. So whilst I see technological advances improving contextual understanding, I also am fearful, candidly, that we go so far down that line that we forget the sort of the hands-on approach that is also so much part of understanding our heritage.
Right, right. And for those of you who've been in the hallways, I definitely recommend checking out the Living Lab and trying on some of those VR headsets and getting out into the sanctuaries. I often tell people it's sort of like the gateway drug. Like for people who trained me how to scuba dive, they used to watch Jacques Cousteau on television, and then they're like, I need to get in the water. And for us in this generation, I think that sort of VR technology and a lot of those interesting animated graphics really open up a whole world of possibility. So it's very interesting times. With that said, I actually want to follow up with another question related to your current role in sustainability. And if I read correctly, I believe you all have the first hydrogen fuel cell cruise. And I'm wondering how that works and
Certainly.
what that means in terms of sustainability and heritage. Yeah.
Well, in the round, we at Viking have looked at ways in which we can reduce emissions and reduce, if you like, the human impact that ships have. And so a decision a while ago was made by our chair and our executive to look at the fuel revolution that would come around using zero-emission hydrogen. And indeed, we have just floated out one of our ocean cruise vessels that has been set up to be propelled through a fuel cell tech. Interestingly, from a sustainability perspective, our founder and chair, Torstein Hagen, exhorts, and I think this is something to just do things. We're on in Britain we call a three-line whip. We would say that let's not talk about what might happen 10 years in the future or 20 years in the future. We get on and do things, and by doing it, we hope that inspires others. So I have to say I've known about this pathway towards fuel cell tech for as long as I've been at Viking, but we're beginning to talk about it now because it's in the public domain, that the technology is there and we can actually do it. And if you take that more broadly with being a responsible operator, there's a myriad ways in which one can be environmentally responsible, one can be efficient, whatever efficient means. And we hope that other operators will take our lead. We don't want to be unique in this. This is not to be a competitive advantage per se. This is a direction of travel that I think that marine transport should be looking at.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited by that. I'm proud of working for a company that does have that approach. And when we come back next year or following years, you can ask me then about whatever else is coming, because it's exciting times.
Yeah, I'm constantly amazed by the ways in which communities and individuals and organizations are rethinking this idea of sustainability and conservation work. I work in the Virgin Islands in St. Croix specifically, and they have a Reef Responsible program where they encourage restaurants to actually serve fish that's locally in season and also sustainable for the environment. And I guess, Faye, this might be a question for you then. How do you see the relationship that the city can play, or the role the city can play in terms of this idea of sustainability?
Sure. So the city of Savannah has a very strong relationship with our industry partners. So in terms of course, shaping policy and ordinance and code and all those kinds of tools that we have in order to be able to support sustainability and have that as one of our high value areas. But I think the other thing is that we work in partnership with either the Tourism Leadership Council, our Chamber of Commerce, our Visit Savannah group, in other words, those trade partners that represent the restaurant industry and that represent the fishing industry and so forth, to be able to support and encourage exactly those kind of sustainable practices that you're describing. And the same thing that you just mentioned is true in your area, is true in ours. There's a strong support for using, locally caught fish and so forth, and so that's I think a key and fundamental value for the city.
Good, yeah. Anybody else deal with sustainability and heritage in ways in your work and things that are coming up?
Well, at Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum, we are on the waterfront. We are on Maryland's eastern shore and very low-lying land, and so we have all the vulnerabilities that come with tidal flooding and sea level rise. And so what we do, because of the visitation that comes to the Maritime Museum, we can model best practices. And so installing the living shoreline and building in ways that are more sustainable over time are we know that we need to set that example. And just as we teach about educate about our cultural heritage to make people fall in love with this so that they become better stewards, this type of public stewardship is also meant to inspire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
This is really interesting from a commercial fishing background, something that I've done in the sanctuary, which is totally allowable. There's no bottom contact there. Mm-hmm. But to be able to bring that restaurant and that fisherman and that community together with those pieces, that seafood sustainability, traceability, being able to truly trust what you're getting on a plate came locally from the ocean it's really impressive to see the impact that it can have throughout not just one community, but the broader area in the state, and as it travels throughout the country, you can trace that seafood sometimes back to Galveston. Mm-hmm. With just as simple as a QR code, you can see who and where that fish came from, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Could I reflect on something regarding sustainability and just the semantics of what we're discussing in terms of the word tourism?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And far from me to contradict very nice opening remarks and so on, but the word tourism in many contexts is quite pejorative. Everybody else is a tourist. You self-identify as something else. You're a visitor or a traveller or something else. And it comes to sharp focus in the politics of the Antarctic, where nobody self-identifies as being tourists, and that the word visitor is the way that is, if you like, the neutral term. We're all visitors. And when it comes to sustainability in the context of travel, it's been a soapbox of mine for years, I have to say candidly, that shifting away from the word tourism to saying I'm visiting or I'm being part of something, and that sustainability being also maybe the human desire to protect and to leave something better than we inherited. That even that term, in the context of how we engage with the space, can make people feel more engaged, and as a facet of sustainability. Mm-hmm. So I'm not criticizing the use of word tourism in this session, but it comes up so often in so many things, and it's used, maybe we're using it in a benign and positive sense as people involved in tourism, but it equally as a sector that often gets vilified. It can be used as a stick to hit those that would choose to travel to other places, learn, interact, spend money, do all those good things.
Yeah.
And I see that as a core part of sustainability too.
Yeah, I think that's a good angle. You know, I often talk about how in cultural heritage we like to say that we're trying to train stewards, and as a steward, you're somebody that has to learn what is going on in this place, where it came from, and then how to preserve it or conserve it into the future. So, yeah, I like that idea of kind of rethinking tourism. Yeah. I'm interested about this idea of private and public partnerships too, because this is an element of, again, this idea of Made in America and how we are actually going to create a future of heritage tourism. It's not just a one entity problem or a one entity solution, but really we have a network of individuals and organizations working together. And I'm wondering if you all have seen sort of viable test cases for this private-public partnership in terms of conveying our marine heritage.
Well, the Mallows Bay, yeah, the Mallows Bay National Marine Sanctuary would not have become recognized as a sanctuary without that type of partnership. It cannot happen without the community support. It cannot happen if the people here don't say, we need this, we want this. There's this fear of what will the government do, and so I think the Sanctuaries program is very conscious about not imposing this on a place, but rather being invited in, and it happened on the Chesapeake Bay at Mallows Bay only because of these multiple partners, both government entities, including not only federal but state partners and local government partners. But also entities like mine, Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum, but also the local outfitters and such who said, here's an opportunity. People want access to this resource. People care about this place. We need a way of ensuring that this continues, that we can build upon this and make sure that this is sustainably monitored and fostered.
Right. Okay.
One thing that we do in Savannah that I think is interesting and goes to your point, we're very strategic, intentional, thoughtful about partnerships. And we typically don't think of partnerships as merely sort of public-private, but there's public-public. There are public nonprofit, there are private nonprofit, there's all kinds of things, and we're very intentional about thinking about the array of resources that we have both in our immediate area, but also those that we have developed over years of relationships and so forth, like I think most areas do. But one that I think has been particularly incredibly impactful, and if any of you have been to Savannah recently, you've gotten to see it, our River Street, which is where a lot of our marine commerce, marine heritage plays out in real time. It's where a lot of where the ships originally came in and so forth, so right on our riverfront. And very recently, in the last 3 years, what's called a community improvement district has formed. It's the Savannah Waterfront Community Improvement District. It's a group of businesses along the waterfront that came together and decided to tax themselves in order to have funds available to help incentivize and be a good public-private, public-nonprofit partner. And so what they've done is developed a complete vision plan for River Street. The city is coming in, and we've developed a complete plan for the multimodal mobility piece of River Street. And if you know River Street and you've been there, you know it's a really interesting place to traverse because everything is cobblestones from probably 1733. ADA accessibility is a bit of a challenge on River Street. So, but that notion of what we're being able to leverage, both with the private sector coming together in this nonprofit space, to be able to reinvest in the place that's so important to them. And they really are, you know, you can think of it in ways that I think you could be tempted to think of it in ways that they're doing this in a more pretty self-motivated way. But I will tell you that there's this, especially there, that is everybody's street. River Street is everybody's street. It's where tourism occurs. It's where, you know, people just go for a walk. It's where kids play in a fountain. It's where people go to shop. It's where people go to eat. And it's all right there with the water, you know, just mesmerizing you right in front of it. And I will tell you that they do it out of their hearts. They're doing it, not only do they want to preserve their future, they want to preserve our future, the OUR. And so that particular public-private, public-nonprofit partnership that has grown out of need and a desire to protect that heritage, and not only to protect it, but to grow it in ways that still respect the past and meet the needs of the future. And that's why for example, I mentioned how for years it's a challenge if you go down to River Street. It's beautiful, but it's a challenge to go down there if you are differently abled. And one of the things that we're doing, and one of the investments that's being made, is to install a fully ADA accessible multimodal path from end to end as a part of that partnership, so that while some of the things like streetscapes and lighting and those kinds of things that are obviously very beautiful will also be occurring, there'll be some real investments that go back to a reflection of what are our values. River Street's for everyone, and everyone means everyone. So that, I think, is a great example of what you just mentioned.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, no, we have.
Well, points very well made about partnership in its various guises. Certainly, from my perspective in managing partnerships with Viking, a variety of guises, is partnerships about trust. and that trust takes time, and that, and just as you're describing, there's private, public, public, private, 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 research, non-profit, whatever, the different ways in which partnership can occur, that any one sector working with any other, typically there is a lack of understanding, a lack of trust. There is, working with the private sector, typically it's seen as both wealthy and agile, and there is an anxiety if you're in a public entity where maybe it's about being a guardian of care and slow and maybe slower decision making, but there is a sort of a continuity that maybe is not respected in the private sector. And that those touch points of alignment where there's sort of mutual self-interest, just those little points, then building on those small areas where in a marine heritage context, it could be just certain elements where there is a common agreement where it suits all parties, and strengthening those, building trust, and letting it take time is certainly the way that we have found has been the most successful in building. And we have partnerships all over that we hope that are strong and resilient and year on year strengthen.
So I'm sitting in a location hoping to follow behind all the paths that y'all have just laid out. We are looking to build a ocean discovery center in the near future in our historic district and historic downtown of Galveston. We will be looking at all of these partnerships. That is a big undertaking and something that we're hoping to bring to our community. It sits at a tourism district, a visitors district. We're going to have a lot of the same challenges y'all have had in Savannah. We're going to be dealing with maritime history. We've got a booming cruise industry coming out of Galveston, dealing with the port. There's a lot of overlap, and I'm really counting on the successes that y'all have had to really light our path to get to where we want to be so we can bring that sanctuary to shore as well.
We're delighted to share.
Thank you.
Shane's comment brings up an interesting question for me, and I'm wondering, as we embark on the 250th, other countries have experienced the 250th, and we often learn best practices from collaborations and from some of these relationships. And I'm wondering where you all go for understanding best practices or getting inspiration for new ways of doing things in the heritage space. Sorry, no, it's a deeper question.
Depends on the topic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's so many different aspects to heritage in a community, and you go to the places that are doing whatever particular aspect super well to try to bring that back.
Yeah. I mean, Council of American Maritime Museums exists exactly to do that, to spread best practices, although, and we do that, but we also want to, depending again on what the area is, that won't be the answer for all of our challenges, and we need to cast the wider net, and which is why I'm glad to be here mixing it up with Capitol Hill Ocean Week for my first time. I will be back.
Thank you. We're happy to have you.
For me, I never know where that inspiration is going to come from. Something as simple as my neighbor down the street that fell just right into a history podcast of Galveston, learning about all the places in the history and telling those stories, to as simple as being up here to learn about how other people have navigated these things in their cities, talking with our sanctuary staff about how to understand what they do know about history. That's not something that's readily accessible in our area for as it goes to the sanctuary. We understand how commercial fishing navigated in the ocean in general, but we don't know about the specific places. So often the staff of our sanctuaries, the leadership of the Sanctuary Foundation can point us in that direction when I need to know how to build an ocean discovery center. I may not know how to get to Faye, but I know how to get to someone who does know her. It's understanding those networks and building them, and just staying engaged with whatever the process may be, knowing that I might not know the answer, I might not know the person that knows the answer, but at some point that this organization and this group can find the answers to a lot of challenging problems.
Could I comment on Nicole's opening remarks about Thunder Bay? Because if we did want to just unpick the anatomy of what we feel is a very successful relationship and partnership. And often things are quite challenging in the rearview mirror when you say, oh, how do we get to this point? What were the steps? It seemed there was a series of steps that we took. But I'd like to, just to pay tribute to Jeff Gray and colleagues at Thunder Bay, because if there was ever a pathway we took where we came into the Great Lakes after all the COVID lockdowns, so all of the preparation that Viking took in anticipation of coming into the lakes, we as non-US citizens could not fly in and travel. We had one operation lead, drove 9,000 kilometers in his camper van on his own, visiting every single outport that we were going to visit. So in the summer of 2022, Viking sailed in, 1,000 years since the Vikings last time came into the lakes, and we were very new. Every outport thought, I'd fast for casting aspersions on cruise lines, but our expedition vessels are very different from maybe a cruise ship you might see in the Caribbean. But we knew we faced every single place we were going, there was going to be apprehension, potential anxiety, maybe skepticism about what it is that we were going to be doing. And for us, where we had a research focus, the back ends of the two expedition vessels have got very rigorous science laboratories and other activities going on. To find somewhere, the first touch point was the fact that there was the National Marine Sanctuary there, so there was a research facility there, starting that conversation. Then my understanding from talking with the team there that the community started working out maybe ways in which could better engage with us, and then we worked out how to better engage with the community. And then we had to change the kayaks on board, so we gave our kayaks off one of our vessels to a community group, a young person's community group in Alpena, to be able to use those. These were assets that we no longer were using. We changed the way that we're using kayaks. And then in return, finding different ways, and then I believe the community then bought some buggies that came along to come and pick up some of our less able or less mobile guests. And that iteration, it's finding that backwards and forth, that creates that positive feeling that every season we've come back, we've looked to try to up the ante, as indeed Alpena as a community and specifically in the sanctuary. So it's, if we plotted backwards to get to that point, I'm not sure we would have made those steps looking forward. But I do think that it is a formula for certainly an enabling environment for success in other sanctuaries also. But I very much value the relationship that we have with Alpena as a community and the sanctuary. And I think that it is an exemplar. I mean, I've, in my career doing these things outside of Viking, bright spots where it does work are worth highlighting and learning from. And you mentioned best practice. I think of it as good practice. I think there's a number of ways of doing things.
Or better practices, maybe.
Better, whatever, exactly. There's no one way of doing it. So it's like, again, I'm not trying to pick her up on the wording, but I feel that both parties, all stakeholders did exhibit good practice in that respect, and we've collectively benefited from that.
One last thing we should mention that's a partnership and a technology piece that I don't think we mentioned earlier is the partnership that exists now between the voluntary participation of the ships that are using the technology to avoid the strikes of the right whale. One of the most magnificent and beautiful creatures on Earth. So I think that's a celebratory moment for the reason why we're all, many of us are here and are dedicated in this space. That's a true partnership and technology piece that has come together to achieve some incredibly remarkable results. So.
Thank you.
One of the comments you made earlier, Faye, actually sparked a question about demographics and heritage and who we're serving and how we're serving, and if there are biases explicitly or implicitly built in. And speaking of the ADA, I didn't realize how important ADA accessibility was until I had a child and realized we need that. With that stroller, we have to have an ADA accessible. Carrying a 20-pound baby around gets old after 15, 20 minutes. So I'm wondering if you all have seen either demographic shifts in who's participating in marine heritage in your respective spaces, or if there's a demographic you all would like to see engage more and what it is that can be done to bring them in.
We've had a really strong increase in seniors who are participating in the visitation economy. I'm not sure what word you want me to call it now, not tourism. Okay. So we've seen a really strong increase in retirees and that older age group that is participating, and that has brought some of those kinds of questions into play. I've also seen the parents struggling with the baby stroller, trying to access certain things. But the folks that I really want to see, I appreciate all of those folks that are coming, but the folks I really want to see are the young folks, the teenagers that are coming back, and they're coming to the Ocean Discovery Center, and they're coming to the museums, and they're really embracing and immersing themselves in that. I want us to make it interesting and impactful in a way that they want to. So.
Yeah.
The danger for the History Museum is that a future audience will say, that's not my history. Why should I care? So the pursuit of relevance is key to our future. And what we do in both collecting now to ensure that we're collecting as broadly as possible, because the way things were collected a generation ago were not broadly representative, and we need to do a better job of that. So collecting the things that didn't survive. How do we collect the stories? At least record those oral histories and such. In the context of the sanctuaries and such, what are the stories? The stories are there. That resource is in place. How do we relate that to, over time, what can be changing audiences? Is this perhaps not understood simply as an Irish experience, but let's broaden it and talk about the immigrant experience, and something that most of our families can relate to, that most of us got here from someplace else at one point or another, whether that was yesterday or 300 years ago. There are ways of looking at this to ensure that we are resonating with these changing audiences.
Yeah. Thank you.
For us, just speaking from a remote site, it's not always the who that we're trying to connect with. It is the how we are connecting with them. People that want to learn something, they'll find a way to do that if you know who you want your audience to be, which for us it is anyone looking to take the next step in learning about the ocean, whether that be a cultural heritage, a maritime piece, a fishery piece, just learning about the corals and how they came to be. It's a lot about how they interact with it. I like to go out and enjoy fishing in the sanctuary, but I can't always do that. But we have found ways by engaging with the artist community. They can bring that, like I can bring people to the sanctuary physically, but an artist can have such a broader reach by putting a tunnel in an international airport like we had in Houston that uses the scenery, the experience, the audio from the sanctuary. So when you're passing from one terminal to another, you're getting that experience as well. I can't reach that many people on a charter boat, but and with the feedback that we got from that was more than we could have ever planned for. And it's as simple as somebody outside the sanctuary having an idea and wanting to bring that to life. The support that gave was reaching more people, more demographics than we ever could have planned for. It's just being open to those ideas and helping people take that next step in learning about whatever the ocean has to offer for them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. I have one question here from the audience that, Pete, this might be for you, but it's open to everybody as well. Is how can we better represent the marine heritage of the U.S. territories within the broader U.S. story and narrative? And I'm not sure if you're seeing this in museums or if you work with maritime museums in the U.S. territories, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, or any of those places, or Guam, or if anybody wants to take that answer, think through it.
Well, look, our heritage is in many different places, and you look at the vast area to the northwest of the Hawaiian Islands, and could we be finding resources like that in need of protection, but also in need of access? In some of these territories that can bring the economic benefits, the community development benefits that we know sanctuaries bring, in a place that doesn't yet have the opportunity to capitalize on that. I think that you're asking a question that suggests there's an opportunity out there.
Yeah.
One thing that we've learned from the research community, we've been engaging with people in Central America, South America, throughout the Caribbean region, to be able to understand how they interact with their fisheries, not only from a cultural heritage piece, but from a management piece. A lot of these fisheries are very accessible, and with that becomes it's a higher level of responsibility to understand how they're interacting with those fisheries. But when a fishery goes away and how it does that and how it gets rebuilt, it's very important to us from a commercial perspective, but from a sanctuary perspective, we've learned that many of these reef fish, when they're spawning and reproducing, it is in an aggregation. We've learned that by working in these communities, where those can exist, how they can protect them. It's a community-based protection system in many of these areas. And being able to understand how they understand that, but also how they protect it, how they identify these areas and the characteristics that these areas may have. Something as simple as plotting the shape of a bank, the shape of a reef can have huge implications for us in identifying places that scamp groupers may be spawning in our sanctuaries. We know that it happens because we have these fish, but the where and the what and the when and the why is important. And we are just now learning some of these lessons from how they interact with these reefs and these reef fish, and where to start to look for those. It's a project that we're going to be looking at in the coming years of what and how we can understand that, where we can find them, or where we can even start to look for them. We may not find them, but I know that fishermen hold some of these places very close, and they're willing to share them if you're building that relationship over time. We know of some, we know where some might be, and we're looking for a whole lot more to be able to understand. But these lessons are coming from the territories and all throughout the Caribbean of how fishermen and managers have come together to protect something where they are at.
Yeah. All right, thank you. I know I just want to close out with one lightning round question for each of you. One word answer, and I'm going to start with you, Pete, if that's okay. Favorite historic ship?
Oh, come on. My favorite children are at my own museum, so I will name one of my own, which is the 1889 Bug-Eye Edna E. Lockwood. Not one word, but forgive me.
That works. All right, look up that ship. Faye, favorite seafood in Savannah?
Oh. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There's so many.
You gotta pick one.
Crab Shack on Tybee, where the elite meet and eat in their bare feet.
That's Beautiful.
Good strap line.
Beautiful. Damon, if I save up all my funds and I can do one Viking cruise, which one should I do?
Oh, wow. Could I pick between my children? On expedition ships, the island of South Georgia
Island of South Georgia, okay.
in the Southern Ocean.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. And then Shane, favorite fish?
Oh, that's easy. It's going to be a wahoo.
A wahoo. Perfect. Thank
I
you.
wanted my favorite ship, the USS Alyssa, sitting right there in Galveston.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you all for sitting with us and sharing your knowledge and your insight. And thank you all in the audience as well for participating.
That was fun. I want to participate in the lightning round. That was great. What an incredible panel. Thank you all. Let's give it up one more time for this incredible panel. Thank you. Sit tight for a second. And you guys sit tight, please. We're going to take a quick photo, and then I'd love to introduce our closing remarks for the first day. So we're going to do a quick photo.